Well, good morning, and particularly to those who have logged in. And as I always say, Shabbat Shalom. That's not a picture of me, by the way. It's not. He's a bit of a lookalike, I'm told. But I still got my job, he lost his. We also live in different places. 10 Downing Street, London. With that location comes the job, and according to the man himself, the best job in the world, which is to be the Prime Minister of Great Britain. His full name, Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. I didn't know all those names. Maybe he didn't even know that. But we know him endearingly as Boris Johnson. The lady that writes his biography said this about him. She said it was all about becoming Prime Minister with Boris Johnson. It wasn't about being one. Quite interesting. He set certain rules but didn't stick to it himself. He misled Parliament. He helped a mate who should have been expelled from his job. He covered up. He made mistakes. I'm not saying he didn't do anything right, but he made many, many mistakes. Double standard was often the case. There's a message there. There's a message. Unlike the man here who so tragically was assassinated. Wasn't that horrible? I mean, the man himself was a very gentle sort of a person. The former Prime Minister, of course, of Japan, Shinzo Abe. Terrible what happened there. Terrible. The nation is still reeling. And that happened on, of course, July the 8th. Of course, he wants more. Evil has a face. No question about it. I think it was Henry Kissinger who said when he met him, he looked into his face and he couldn't see his soul. I think that's not far off the truth. Amazing power. He wants more too. And boy, have they come on the map. There's no question about it. And they spread their influence. In fact, I found this picture. That's, of course, Africa. They invest all over the world to gain influence, and they do this so well. So does America, and America has been doing it, of course, for a lot longer. But there it is. He wants more influence and say as well. Then there is the James Webb Space Telescope. It has an infrared structure that allows far more to see of the universe around us. And it is actually quite incredible. At a cost of about some 10 billion. The NASA administrator, his name was Bill Nelson, he said this. He said, put simply, Webb, which is the endearing name for this telescope, will give humanity a new view of space. We are promised a new view of space. And it will be an improved one. And fundamentally alter our understanding of the universe. And ultimately, he says, it will alter our understanding of the universe. And as I said, that comes at a cost. The launch was December last year. It comes at a cost of some $10 billion US. You want to know about space? I can do that for under $10. Walk into a Christian shop, buy a Bible, and learn about the God of space. Because the more you listen to music, the more you know about the composer. Is that right? The more paintings you see, the more you know about the painter and how they think. And ultimately, space expresses God, the glory of God, and who He is. Could have saved $10 billion. Some churches you could have built for that. I mean, yeah, no. That's the way it is. Wanting more. I know that around the world there are many demonstrations. I feel for the people of Sri Lanka. The country is broke. So many other countries, Venezuela should stand out as well, where people are just sick and tired of the cost of living. Does that ring a bell, resonate with you? Hasn't it gone up? Violi came home the other day. She said, I'm missing a few shopping bags. I said, did you leave them in the shop? She said, no, I paid for so much. I should have had at least another 2 shopping bags full of goodies, which she didn't. And I I like the demonstration here. It says here, we won't pay for the crisis. Guess what? They will. There's no other way. There is no other way. In God we trust. That's a misnomer when you put it on a bill of $1, isn't it? In God we trust. Really, in essence, it's in greed we trust, basically. And whatever you had your hopes on, what you want to have, what you want to be, there is like so many things that the shops run out of. The lifestyle you ordered is currently out of stock. I quite like that, actually. It sort of appeals. It's amazing the times we live in. They have had enough. Don't you feel sorry for them? And they expect another one to come. You know, it's a horrible thing what's happening to those people. Terrible. Socrates. I like seeing what people say after experience. He or she who is not content, notice what he said. 4th century BC. He who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he would like to have. In other words, even if you got it all, you still wouldn't be content. In fact, our commentary puts it like this: to crave more than the essential breeds a discontented spirit. In fact, Ellen White said it like this. Now, I think it's just beautifully said. All means beyond and above the basic necessities of life are entrusted to mankind to do good and to bless humanity. And I think you can't beat that statement. You can't beat that. But as our commentary put it, to crave more than the essentials breeds a discontented spirit, a competitive zeal that is never satisfied. Richness is not decided by how much you have. It's by the level of contention that it has brought in your life. That's the important part. Mahatma Gandhi had a certain way of his words as well. He said, there is sufficiency in the world for man's need, but not for man's greed. That's true. That is true. I like him, Albert Einstein. Great mind. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. I like that. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. And he goes on to say, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. How do you like that? I like that statement. Very interesting. You might like the look of this. Money is a good servant, that is true, but it is an awful, awful master. Because we mix up our need with our want, and they're two different things. Greed is not good. Greed is the inventor of injustice. But note this, greed is also the enforcer of injustice. And that is globally an absolute reality. Absolute reality. Go to the 3rd chapter of the book of Genesis. They have everything. God has provided everything, including his own presence, including his personal visitation in the cool of the night. He is there for them. You read that story. This is not just a story. This is an actual physical account that actually occurred. Always remember that. The depths of Genesis 3 is enormous. She looked at the food on the tree when she ended the dialogue with Lucifer, Satan, who possessed the serpent. You know the story. We know it so well. And the subtlety of sin is introduced here. And it appeals to one very important weakness that we all possess. There's no point saying that you don't, you do. You see, Satan offered Eve more. More than what? Well, more than everything she had. He offered her more than what God had given her. What is greed? Greed is when you want more than God has entrusted to you. Think about it. Think about it. He said, Satan, you will be like God. But she didn't become like God. You wouldn't die, he said. She's dead. He lied. You'll be like God? No, she wasn't. You'll know good from evil? No, not likely, because the first thing she did is got her hubby to indulge in sin as well, didn't she? Terrible. David, look at King David, a king who had it all. You know, when you talk about King David, there's so much good about the man. He was a man after God's heart. But he had his moments, didn't he? And his habits. I mean, we talked about it not so long ago. Almost so many wives and concubines. Never approved of by God. A successful kingdom and everything he could ever possibly desire or possess. But note this. He was offered more. The way Satan gets you in is by offering, promising more. More. He was offered more by the enemy of souls, by Satan. He fell for it. The second look, or was it the third look, or the fourth, he fell for it, and he took another man's wife. But he really took another man's life. Terrible, isn't it? The man after God's heart. But Psalm 51 again explains a great deal. Lust. Now I look at this and I look at the chocolate, you see. I shouldn't have picked that picture. Love chocolate, I do, by the way. But don't give it to me because my wife will confiscate it. And lust has not always anything to do with chocolate either, as you know what I mean. It's often more likely a sexual sin, but it is so much more. It can be many, many, many different things. Lust. Lust and greed, those are the weaknesses of mankind. And we're mankind. We've got to be honest with ourselves. Lust and greed. You know, they are definitely, without a doubt, more gullible, far more gullible than innocence. Because you know why? If you want it, you'll find an excuse. We're good like that. We always have an explanation that suits the occasion. Have you ever noticed that? About yourself, I mean. Nobody's responding, that's all right. I can't be the only one. Some people are so poor that all they have is money. You know, when someone once said, you know, when you're really, really rich, you're really rich when you aren't wealthy until you have something that money can't buy. I like that. I think that's an excellent statement. It was made, Garth Brooks, he was an American singer-songwriter. Free money. There was an estimation of what people have most on their mind. Experts tell us this, that the average person thinks about money about 50% of his or her waking time. Do you? That's what the experts say. You know, you think about how to get it. This is included. How to keep it. That's included. How to save it. That's hard. How to spend it. That's easy. How not to spend is harder. How to find it. It's on our mind, many people's minds. Had to deal with any tradespeople of late? There are two ways to get enough. Let me tell you how you do it. There are two ways to get enough. The first one is to continue to accumulate more and more and more. And that'll occupy your whole lifetime. because it'll never be enough. There are many people who are doing just this. That's all they do. That's all they do. One is to continue to accumulate more and more, and the other one is to desire less. Now, there's a good hint for you. You don't have to be a qualified, accountant to advise your clients on that. The other one is to desire less. Gambling. Gambling is sin, but it comes in many forms. I remember this different church, not this church, and I have to say that. And the man said he just won. I can't remember whether it was lotto. I think it was. Not the big prize, not the first prize. I would have claimed the 10% on behalf of the church. No, I wouldn't have. And he said to me, I'm telling you this because I believe God wanted me to win this. It helped him. I said, no, he didn't. He said, oh, Pastor, I'm sure. I said, no. Satan wanted you to win. He always does. Then I said something like this, because it was a habit with him. I said, I'll bet you can't give it up. And I talked to him much later, and apparently he finally did, but it was a struggle. Gambling is a sure way of getting nothing for something. I've known them personally. I don't know whether you ever known anybody addicted to gambling. Be very caring, loving for them, pray for them, be there for them, but never give them any money. Can't do that. It's playing the stock market. Now, gambling, we look down on the poker and all the other ways and means that are employed there. And you can go to the city and walk into the casino, and it's amazing. You ever done that? You say, well, I never go to those places. Let me tell you, it's an eye-opener. I used to walk through that because we used to go for a meal sometimes. I had to walk through that particular area, and I watched the people that are addicted to gambling. And your heart goes out to them. They sit there for hours and hours and hours. Terrible. But so is playing the stock market. If it's just for the purpose of gain, think again what you're doing. You are not honoring and glorifying the name of your God. You are not. Even evolutionists would agree with me on this one. Greed is stopping human evolution. Did you know that? It is. There we are, as primates, we were only concerned about food. Then how convenient a fire would be. For one thing, you get warm. And that appeals to us today. And then again, finding out, inventing the wheel, marvelous. What a change that brought about. And then, of course, we think about agricultural and fishing and everything else. And ultimately, we think about money. And what have we progressed to? We've only progressed to more money. We haven't improved, in other words. Henry Ford, you know the man from the car. Henry Ford, he was a very good thinker. He said, money does not change man. It does actually, but anyway, that's the way he viewed it. Money doesn't change men, it merely unmasks them. And so that's another way of saying it. Because money does change people. It does. And then he, after all his millions, he made this one statement. I love this statement. I was happier when doing a mechanic's work. Isn't that amazing? The millions did nothing for Henry Ford. And the millions you didn't make wouldn't do anything for you either. So you can feel good about it. People who love money, well, and want more, of course. They will take bribes. Corruption is based on that. They will distort justice. They will manipulate. They will take advantage of the poor. And as they do, they will lie. They will cheat. They will extort. They will deceive. They will steal and rob. They will abuse, they will do bodily harm if they have to, they will kill for money, and it's done all over the world. They will teach false doctrine even for money. Sometimes you watch the television, religious programs, and you wonder if they really don't know better. Anyway, the root of all evil is money. It's not money, it's the love of money. Now, this is very important. It's not money. It's not about the money. Nobody has to feel bad. If you do, well, talk to me and I'll tell you how to make the best donation in your life. The root of all evil is the love of money. That's a very big difference. You understand that? You got to be crystal clear on that. It produces all kind of evil, and we'll read the text again in a minute. So if you can just deal with the affection of money, for money, you've won the battle, so to speak. You would have certainly won the battle. There's a man by the name of John Flavel. He was a Puritan, and a few hundred years ago he said this: "It is easier to cry against 1,000 sins in others than to mortify one sin in ourselves." Is that true? Yes, it's very true. That goes for me particularly as well as I stand here, as I'm expected to tell you how one should live. But how could I say so if I don't live that myself? How can you do that if you pass on the wonderful gospel truth, how to have a life of peace and live in harmony with the God who entrusted life to you? Same story. How to know when you love money? Too much. Too much. I know it comes in handy, doesn't it? But loving it too much. Firstly, when you spend more time, notice, when you spend more time thinking about how to get money rather than you do about how to do a good job. I hear people say, it's only a job, meaning I'm only doing it for the money. They're very unhappy people. Very unhappy. They don't serve the one that pays them, and they don't serve the one who provided the job for them in his provision, the God they claim to worship. Secondly, you know you love money too much when you never have enough. Folks, how true that is. Thirdly, you love money too much when you flaunt it. Now, nobody's going to wave a handful of $100 or $1,000 bills in front of your nose. But it can be done by the things that you acquire, procure, and that it can provide. Fourthly, you love money too much when you resent giving it. I should have said that before the collection. It's true. Fifthly, you love money too much when you sin to obtain it. Yeah, be careful. I'm going to be very truthful. It's when that job that's very lucrative just eats into a few hours of the Sabbath day. Don't take the job. Knock it back. Don't dishonor your God. And this is this time of the year, income tax. How good are you in filling it out truthfully? Oh, don't answer that. No, you won't. When you will cheat on your expense account, that's another very famous way. Epicurus, you've heard of the name, perhaps. Very popular in the early centuries, there before BC. Even very popular in the early 1st and 2nd century. And the philosophy that Epicurus stood for is called Epicureanism. I got out of that one. I hate saying that word. It's a mental ascent of happiness. That means that the mental satisfaction and gratification is the most important to pursue. Stop being worried about God, about death. Enjoy life, but don't let the physical take over the mental. That was basically their philosophy. He said this, and it's not a bad statement from someone's philosophy that I don't agree with, but the secret of contentment, he says, is not to add to a man's possessions. Don't think that adding on will help you. It's not to add to man's possession, but to take away from his desires. You've got to learn to reduce the desires for what you want to have. This man, Emmanuel James, or he was known as Jim Rohn, he was a motivational speaker, very often for radio, etc. He only was cut to the age of 60. He said this: time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you can't get what? You can't get more time, can you? He died in 2009, I think it was, and he was only 60 years of age. Let's go to the Book of Proverbs. I love the Book of Proverbs, don't you? You ever turn to that? Amazing the wisdom it contains. Amazing. It is extraordinary wisdom, it says here, for ordinary life. I like that. If a man shuts his ears to the cry of the poor, he too will cry out and will not be answered. What goes around comes around. Proverbs 21. Richard Waitley said this, an economist, theologian. He was the Archbishop of Dublin. This is what he said. A man is called selfish not for pursuing his own good. A man is called selfish for neglecting his neighbor's good. You like that? Now, Matthew 25. Proverbs, wisdom for all ages. He who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker. That's true. But he who honors him, his maker, he has mercy on the needy. I love wisdom books. Here's another one, Proverbs. This one is very good too. A manual for living. The people will curse him who withholds grain, which reminds me of the conflict there in the Ukraine, when Putin doesn't want to let the grain out of the country to be distributed for where it's so desperately needed. Good text for him. I bet he doesn't know it. The people will curse him who withholds grain, but blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. And this is very familiar. The rich rule over the poor. That's a fact of life, isn't it? Yeah, it's true. And the borrower is the servant of the lender. Ask the banks. You are the servants of the banks. Give me, I love this. This is a prayer in Proverbs. Proverbs 30, it's very good. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food allotted to me, lest I be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. This is wisdom. It's a prayer. Instead of loving people and using money, people often love money and use people. So true. As long as greed is stronger than compassion, there will always be suffering. A maldistribution of equitability of goods and services, whatever is needed in our daily existence. You can have a lot of money. Notice, very good statement here. I love statements like this. They come from experience. You can have a lot of money and not love it. Can you? You can. Here's another one that's even better. You can have no money and love it. And that makes you still greedy, that makes you still coveting, which is still a commandment. Right there at the end of the 10 Commandments. It's right there. You can have no money and love it. You can be materialistic and not have it. He who is greedy is always in want. True. Here's a good one. He who wants everything all the time will lose everything at some time. You know the two men that I'm putting here. Bill Gates was raised as a Congregationalist. Warren Buffett was raised as a Presbyterian. And they are so wealthy, they're so rich. If their talents would have been turned to the gospel, it would have been so good. But here they are, very wealthy, and I know they do charity, and I'm not sitting in judgment, and neither am I jealous. No, not at all. Paul, what we read was so beautifully read, Jackson, that you did very well. Godliness with contentment is great gain. If whatever you want to achieve in your life, this is what you must attain to. Godliness with contentment. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. That's a fact. Whatever you have stays. Whatever you are comes with you. You can't leave that behind. That comes with you. And having food and clothing, with these we shall be content. The simplicity of life. Can I put it in your mind? Whatever you take away from this morning, the God-given simplicity of life, to be content with that, is true riches and happiness. If you can bear that in mind. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. And then he says it, and he says it so well. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. The one thing about roots, you got to have roots, otherwise there's nothing there. There won't be a plant, there won't be branches. But you can't see the roots, can you? You can't tell by a person, well, sometimes by their actions, or very often by their actions. But you can't tell whether they are lovers of money, that money comes first in their life. The roots are hidden, but the branches and the fruit therefore and thereof are not. For which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, and in his epistles he mentions a few, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Great loss, great loss. Set your mind, he says in the letter to the Colossians, on things above, and not on things on the earth. Whatever is here is temporary, whatever is there is eternal. We know that. For our citizenship is in heaven. Now we all say that, right? Are you citizens serious about being a citizen of heaven? Really, because from which we also eagerly wait for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. If you don't see yourself as a citizen of the heavenly Jerusalem, how can you be waiting for him? Or are you waiting for the next financial gain or recognition that you're after? Think about it. Think about it. Donald Gray Barnhouse was a very good preacher. He only got to the age of 65. A young preacher walked up to him. He was at the what they call the 10th Presbyterian Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was there for a long time. He was doing very well. A young preacher walked up to him, and this is what he said. I'd give the world if I knew the Bible like you. You know what he said? Good, because that's exactly what it will cost you. God is not going to lead you into understanding and knowledge unless you obey that which you know already, and he has been given you these years already. Do you understand that? Is that fair? If God accumulated in you the understanding and there was a disobedience into what you know already, you only will be further incriminated. Think about that. Think about that. The Gospel of Matthew, do not lay for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and rust destroy. You know the text. And where thieves break in and steal, and lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. And then this famous statement, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Now the heart to the Hebrew is the mind, your mindset. Whatever your treasure is, that is what you think about. That's what I've been saying. That is where your mind is. That's where your energies will go. That is where all the God-given talents will be employed to. And the one that you have to give most an account of course, is time. It's non-replenishable. Very good statement. You cannot serve God and mammon. Can't. You can't. And I'm not saying that you are besotted by your wealth, you may not have any wealth. But there can be still the desire that will be between you and God. It still can happen. You cannot serve God and mammon, but seek first, Jesus said, the kingdom of God and what? Oh yes, I love that. It's not your righteousness. You got to seek his righteousness. The one that he imputes to you ultimately and imparts as you go through the process of sanctification, which is the experience of a lifetime. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things, all the other things, he says, and you know the text, shall be added to you. Let me tell you something. To me, certain people straight away come to mind over the years that I've been in ministry, Christian. And I've heard many say that I'll work hard first, and then when I'm okay, when I'm financially secure, when I'm financially independent, I'll go and I'll work for the Lord. I have never seen that work. And I'll tell you why. If you want to work for the Lord and you believe that you have secured your financial status and well-being, you're not going to serve him. It is of the experience of your own needs that you will know your dependency upon him for everything. If you realize your dependency on God for your basic physical needs, you're going to understand much better that you need him for your spiritual needs. Does that sink in? I have never seen anyone say, now I've earned enough, now I'm going to work for God. They want both comfort and a good job with working for the Lord. Doesn't work. It just doesn't. Gospel of Mark. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, loses his own soul, or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? We know these texts. We know how true they are, how applicable they are, and you can't live in ignorance and denial of these texts. I mean, the rich young ruler, there was one. That was not a parable, he was real. The rich fool, well, there were many. Bigger barns. What for? I like to think what James said in his epistle. Come now, you rich, weep and howl, he says, for your miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches are corrupted, note at the list. Your garments are moth-eaten, that I understand. But your gold and silver are corroded. Is gold and silver corroded? That's why it's so expensive. It doesn't. Your gold and silver are corroded, though, he says, and their corrosion will be a witness against you. Until I realized that the corrosion is a non-activity, a non-usage of the gifts that God has given you, and that will come against you, he says. It will come against you. That you eat, that will eat your flesh, like that's a destruction of being lost like fire. You have heaped up treasures in the when? Well, we live in the last days, don't we? Think about it. Think about it. A story I like to share with you. And I've really done well not going over time. You'll like this story. This man was called the Terrible Turk. He was a wrestler. When I say a wrestler, fists and kicking, everything was allowed. And he was a big, heavy guy, strong man. Nobody could beat him. There was a man in America, he believed he could. and his name was Evan Lewis. He was known as the Strangler. He had a certain grip that he would hold on his opponents, and they couldn't get breaks through that grip. And he was totally unbeaten. And the two met. In fact, there was a massive, somewhere in New York, there was a massive in the, what is it called again? The Tattersalls, that's right. So Yusuf versus Lewis. And it is $2 a ticket. So if you have a ticket, it's expired. You understand this one found place in 1898. Now, $2 was a lot of money then. Can you understand that? That was really something. So it was very expensive. The ticket, $2, was very expensive. And so the match got on the way, and it became clear that Lewis was not going to beat Yusuf. The grip that he normally employed at his opponents failed with Yusuf, who got out of it every time. And ultimately, and I'm not too sure what the injuries were, but Yusuf, of course, did win by far, unbeaten. And he got paid $5,000 US. Now, the $5,000 US in 1898 was a lot of money. And he had it converted in gold coins or bullions. And he had a special belt, you see, and he put the gold in the belt, and he made some appearances here and there and interviews or what have you. And whatever he got paid, he converted it into gold, which he put in the belt and near to his heart, so to speak, safe place. And that's what he did. And then he booked fairly soon after the fight, he booked a ticket on the SS La Bourgogne. And that was, of all dates, the 4th of July. And on the 4th of July, there was a terrible mishap with his boat, and actually it sank. And with it, 600 other passengers lost their lives. It was a disaster. And he was trying to, as the ship went down, he was trying to get one of the lifeboats, and he was recorded and noticed to shove everybody out of his way to get there, but he slipped and he fell in the water. There he went, fully clothed. Plus the... Oh, yes. Well, you know what gold weighs, don't you? Reportedly between 8,000 to 9,000 United States dollars of gold dragged him down. They couldn't get to him. He was a good swimmer, but he went down, down with his gold. And I thought, what an object lesson just to mention that. If you hang on to that, if you hang on to your possessions, your desires, your lust, whatever it is, that's a good lesson, isn't it? It's good for us to be reminded. It is. It really is. All of us, me, you, we need to be reminded. We need to be reminded. And so in conclusion, you know, there's a reality that must prevail in your life. This is the experience you got to have. When we have nothing left but God, we discover that God is enough. And if you can hang on to that, you've had a good morning. And it's been worthwhile just being here. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we could be here together to study and listen to your word. Lord, we thank you for it. We thank you for the blessing that it may give us and to fortify our minds that nothing must come between you and us, because nothing is worth it. That we may continue to trust you fully, totally, and absolutely, because you are our God. You make the provisions. You give the directions. And it'd be wonderful. It'd be wonderful to see you. May that day come soon. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you.